It's all
please.
right.
All right. Here
You
we
don't have to go off.
go. Yay!
The way it is.
Welcome to Writer Talks, where you get to meet the winners of the short story contests here at Two Sisters Writing and Publishing. And today is such a treat because we get to talk to Leslie Muzingo, and she is in two of our anthologies because her short stories are so extraordinary. One of them is called Saying Goodbye, and it's just her writing is just snap, crackle, pop. It's like really draws you in with emotion and crisp writing. And welcome, Leslie.
Thank you. And I will soon be in 3 of yours because that one's in a different year.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you are
I just
just
want to
rocking it.
tell your listeners that. I want to brag a minute.
Okay, please do.
Well,
please brag.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was really an honor for me when I first started. I mean, for every story that I've had accepted by y'all and won a contest. But the first year was just wham, because I won 3 times and it just blew me away. I mean, I've had some stories accepted when they knew who I was, who they knew who the author was. So, and that's great. That's nice. They know you. They feel like they can trust you. That sort of thing. But your judging is all anonymous, and I still won 3 times. And
yes,
the
Leslie.
the feeling of that was like, wow. And I hadn't had that many stories published at that time, that first year. And it was just like, really? Really?
So that's the wonderful thing. It's just the writing is judged based on its merit. And your writing is just really high quality. And that's what we look for. We're actually, we're pretty stringent about quality of writing because, if we're going to present this in a publication in our anthology, we want to make sure it's excellent. So your writing is amazing. So Leslie, I want to hear about your process. Like, what inspires you to write? Like, how did you come up with the stories that you write? Like, where did the ideas come from?
I would say that every story that I write has a little bit of me in it somewhere. Now, this last story, Saying Goodbye, has a lot of me in it because the person who passes away in it is Ricky. Loosely based on a friend who did pass away, who was a very dear friend of mine and who was a roommate and who would say that very thing about how he was a saint because he was born a saint and all this. And I would say this thing that I say in the story back. But a lot of the story goes further is not true. And that's one of the things that people should never write a completely true story unless they're trying to write nonfiction. If you're trying to write fiction, you can use a few bits there, but you don't write the whole thing trying to make it true, or it's just trite. But every story I've ever written, I think I could find there's a little something of me in it. In The Woman Who Loved the Spy, it was the part about the rose. I just was a big gardener, and I knew all about the roses and everything. And I also, the part about Laura Ingalls Wilder, because I was a big fan of hers. And so I these kind of things.
Yes.
There's always something about me in it. Also, I would say every writer has something that is their big thing. Some people are very big on plot. Some people are very big on description. Mine is character. I really love to get to know my characters as people. My husband's come across me, not so much lately, but I remember he would say, "Who are you talking to?" And I'd be in the bathtub talking to myself I would be this character first, and oh well, he said that. Oh well, no, we can't do that. And it's just because I would get to know these people, and once you know them, it just becomes part of writing them. I mean, you have to tell their story.
Yes, yes.
So
I love it. So they come alive and you're having conversations with them.
Yes.
I love it.
And even the characters that are not as big a deal sometimes, they just have, sometimes in a short story, have a very small part, become sometimes the most fun to write.
Like what's an example? Sure.
Well, actually, been working on a novel for a while, so I'm going to use that because that's the first one that comes to mind. This person he's just an editor of a newspaper, and he's somebody that he's not even the main character comes to see, but somebody who's an important character, and he just keeps calming the person down. And I had to find ways to make that character listen by doing action. And so I was having him, he's got his pipe and he's drawing on his pipe, but how is he doing it? And then later, how is the other character angry? And so what happens to the pipe? And it's just how the pipe plays back and forth, and the smoke in the air, and just between the two men. And it makes that first, the lesser important, the editor character, be able to say a lot without saying a word.
Right. Oh, I love that. Show, don't tell. That is so powerful. I love that kind of thing. And you're writing with what I love is you're able to convey so many different emotions in one story. You know, there's grief, there's humor, there's nostalgia, there's, just adventure. It's really awesome. You're very skilled at weaving all of that into one.
And I'm never satisfied. I'm never satisfied.
What do you mean?
I take that back. I think there's one story that I have published with y'all that I'm completely satisfied with, and I don't want to change. It's one of my very favorite stories, and it's Emerald Eyes.
Yes, I love that story. Oh my gosh,
that story.
First of all, the title.
I ran across another story recently named that, and I read it and I said, no, mine's better. And actually, not all of mine are. I don't read that. Sometimes I'll read somebody else who has a similar thing, and I go, "Oh, theirs is better." But but with that story, I felt like I hit it, and it's just, I'm not such a big fantasy type writer, but that particular story, I think, I don't know, it was just something that I wanted to say. Everybody wants to either blame it on mental illness. You have to sometimes believe, and maybe he was. I mean, but he grieved for his wife. Was it his escape or was it real?
For anybody who's watching, please go to twosisterswriting.com/winning stories, and you can read all of Leslie's amazing stories. So Emerald Eyes, can you just give a summary?
No, buy the books.
That's true. Buy the anthologies. They're on Amazon.
Money out of it, but buy the books.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yes, actually, the international anthologies I'll put the link here so that you can order and have the physical copy of Leslie's stories. So for anybody who hasn't read it, Leslie, can you give a summary of Emerald Eyes, please?
It starts off talking about a train track that goes to, the description, I can't really quite give it, but it's a train track that after it was basically, you think of it after it's been laying, how they break the champagne bottle and everything, but it was done wrong. and it wouldn't take people where they actually wanted to go. They'd have a ticket for New York, and they'd end up in Timbuktu. And people were upset, some of them, but others were fascinated. And this one man who had been so depressed and so sad because he lost his wife, she had died, started getting on the train, and he met this woman, and they started going on trips together. And that's kind of should take you to want to read it, I think. I don't want to tell you the whole story, but
yeah.
It's about hope, it's about dreams, it's about reality, and it's about fantasy. It's just
I love that.
In 1,000 words.
In 1,000 words.
No,
yes,
no, I think it was 1,200. I think it was 1,200. So something like that. But it's and that's a real challenge, I think, for writers to have a set limit. You can't go over this amount.
Right.
And but to tell, there's flash fiction where people are writing 500 words, and that's a totally different thing. But when you're telling this kind of story, and you really have to think about how much can you develop the characters, how much can you develop the plot, give some description. And sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. I mean, it doesn't always work. But
Leslie, earlier you said you hit it. So what does hit it mean as a writer? I love that.
Oh, wow. You know it when you see it. It's I think it's one of the best stories I've ever written. It gets the emotions right where you want them. You read it, and it leaves you wondering and hoping. And you don't have a real set answer. You wouldn't want one.
You wouldn't want one.
You wouldn't want one. You want to think about it some more, and maybe go back and read it again and think about it some more, and come up with your own answer.
Ooh, that is the best writing, where it's so open for interpretation and application.
And I'm guilty of not doing that sometimes. My husband gets on me. He says, "Don't do that bump ending."
Oh, that's funny. So can you talk about your writing process? Like, do you write at the same time every day in the same spot?
No.
Or
no,
do you write in the middle of the night? What do you do?
More likely in the middle of the night. I write when I want to write. And I'm not serious enough writer as a lot of people, but I used to be an attorney, and I had to quit because I had health problems. And at first I was very depressed, and I had always wanted to write when I was a child. I used to go into the woods and take a notebook and write really awful poetry. Though my friend Regine thought that was good. But hello, Regine.
Oh, how sweet.
She's my friend from high school, junior high, elementary school.
Regine.
But it was really bad. I'm telling you.
Oh.
It was some pretty bad stuff. But even if you write bad poetry, it helps you write good fiction. So, but I did that when I was, in the 5th grade, 4th grade. I would go out in the woods and write. And I ended up going to law school and becoming an attorney. And of course, as an attorney, you write a lot. And I would manage to work Shakespeare into my brief sometimes. I remember writing one time, that hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, putting that in there. Because it just worked. And the judge even called me and said, you got it. We're going to do it your way because you're right. But
that's awesome. Oh.
But when I couldn't practice law anymore, I became very depressed. And at first I did several things. And I started beading. I do beadwork. And I actually won some contests doing beadwork.
What does that mean? What's beadwork?
Wow.
Like, you mean Native American jewelry?
Like
that kind of beading?
No, I don't really do it. That's not my style. I'm more likely Swarovski. And
okay.
though I'm very upset with Swarovski right now because they've decided to quit selling to businesses and only sell to like design houses. Shame on them. But I do things like what they call off loom weaving. And if I wasn't holding this iPad, I would go just, wait. And frankly, I think it is important for a writer to do more than just write anyway.
Oh, wow. Great point.
Because if you just write and write and write, you lose perspectives of other things. You don't talk to people who do anything but write. Mm-hmm. And you've got to keep talking to lots of people.
Yes, I love that perspective, Leslie. I would love to see your beadwork. Maybe.
This is a very, very basic thing. Very basic.
That's beautiful.
It's a right angle weave, just bracelet. It has that two-tone look because it's two colors of Swarovski.
Oh, beautiful. Do you sell
We're
it?
Here to talk about writing. Sometimes, and sometimes I give it away, and sometimes I just keep it. Here's a very good example of an earring because I like to use pieces. Oops, where am I? Here we go.
Yeah. Ooh, that's gorgeous.
I like to use pieces that have a vintage, and that part of it down at the bottom is vintage, very old. Yeah. This piece is modern and so forth. So that's enough about that.
No, but you know what, Leslie?
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, as a writer, what you were saying about needing to do other things, the use of metaphors is very powerful in storytelling. And so when you can use the metaphor of crystals, they sparkle, and the colors, and there's so many wonderful ways you can incorporate, but you have that general knowledge base of the crystals to incorporate into your writing. So that's awesome.
And also when you have knowledge of other things, again, I said I always kind of tended to put things that I knew about in my stories. The first story I had published was about a woman who had, I don't say it's MS, but it's something, a neurogenic type disease. Mm-hmm. And how she was a milliner. Mm-hmm. And she did hats. But slowly her disease process became so bad, and she began to make things in her mind. And because she could do nothing. She could sit there in a chair, and it was terrible. Okay. She got really bad. But she became free actually in her mind, because she'd always wanted to do more than do hats. She wanted to make evening gowns and sew stones on them and do all this. And in her mind, she did every stitch. And I knew about that. I mean, I knew about the waiting for a diagnosis. I knew about the beadwork, and I certainly can't sew an evening gown, but I knew about each individual little step. And I wrote about that. And it was the first story I had published. It was really great,
That's powerful.
So again, writers, I think sometimes, particularly young ones, because they're so hungry to be published and so hungry, they want to make it into the New York Times bestseller list. Okay? And of course, I'm older, duh. And I've already had a career of other things. So I'm writing because I love it. I'm not just writing because I need to make a living from it. And so that's where I'm luckier than most, I think.
Very.
So I also quilt. I'm not as good at that as I am on beading. But I just think it's always good, whether you do other hobbies per se, you have to put yourself out there and be around other people or other things or groups or whatever. I mean, I belong to a couple of writing groups, and that's great. I also belong to a couple of online beading groups.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's great.
The symbolism of quilting, oh my goodness, especially the old school way of doing it, of using people's old clothes and curtains and tablecloths. You're literally wearing scraps of someone's life. And then, and then you're warming yourself, comforting yourself with that blanket that is created from these scraps of life. I have 2 of those on my bed, made like 2 lifetimes ago by my great grandmothers, and I cherish them so much. And I love that, Leslie. That's such a powerful message that you have for writers about that. Having a really rich texture of life. It's not one linear, I'm a writer. All the other things enrich you.
Enjoy your life. And I think it will affect your writing to the positive, in a positive way.
So you were talking about the evolution of leaving the law, becoming a writer. Was there anything, because I kind of jumped in there. So was there anything you wanted to continue with that trajectory?
Well, I think this really has nothing to do with writing either. But when I first left, the thing that really got me moving and motivating before I got into even anything else was I got a dog. And she's not with me anymore.
I'm sorry.
We have some other dogs, but I think people in general need to be needed, and they need to care for someone. And I had worked in a form of law that it was very people oriented. I did a lot for my clients. It was, I don't know, you probably don't know what Title III is, and I won't go into all the trouble of telling you, but it's basically the Elder Americans Act. And I did a lot of stuff for the elderly, where I went out in the country, and people who didn't know how to read, I did things for them. And I also did Social Security disability. I did things that either dealt with elderly or disabled people. And so I felt like I was sitting at home and I didn't have anybody to care for. My husband worked. And then some friends told my husband that I needed a dog. And they found me this poor little abused Chihuahua that had been taken. And she was just exactly what I needed in my life. And again, I think writers are often so isolated. They're normally very shy people, withdrawn people. And if you're not gonna do something else, at least get a pet.
You're so funny. Well, I'm the classic case of the pretty much isolated, and the pandemic makes it all the more so, just being super in solitude. But it's very productive, but it can be quite lonely.
Yes.
So you're fortunate that you have you have your husband and you had your Chihuahua. Now you have other dogs?
Yes. Well, we had the Chihuahua. Then after a while, we got this other little dog. And when the Chihuahua passed away, my Tia, when she passed away, the other dog was definitely the low dog on the totem pole. And she couldn't stand being alone. And I didn't want to get another dog right away because I just was so heartbroken. But after a couple months, BB was just hang dog. I said, fine, we'll get another dog. And so we did. And we got another Chihuahua. Totally. Some people said, you got one that just looks like yours, one like Tia. That's not right. I said, she doesn't look anything like Tia. And she was, just because she was white and had the same markings. But Tia was like 5 pounds and this dog was like 10 pounds. And the difference with a deer head and an apple head. and just personality's been completely different. And so we have Esther that we got on Easter.
How cute. Esther on Easter.
And yeah, at first I wasn't real open to her because I was still grieving, because I was like, we just got her for BB. And then I saw how much she needed me. Is that dog, talk about a needy dog. She comes into our house, climbs on the back of our couch and flies off. I'm like, what's going on with this dog? We got her from a Chihuahua rescue. And she found out she had been locked up in a run all the time, just being forced to have puppies constantly.
Oh, wow.
And I think that's something, I guess it goes back to writing too. You can't look at one kind of person, or just like animals. You can't look at one kind of animal and think all Chihuahuas are alike, or all people are alike. You write a character and you say, okay, it's a maid, so just write her as a maid. No. You've got to put more into it than that, because all people are not alike.
No. And don't judge a book by its cover. That maid might have an MBA and, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. She may have something that's so that, you could put a few of those standard things in and then totally twist it and make it so unusual, But Esther was sure unusual because she was flying off, and we just were like, what? And she was eating. We put dog food down. She'd eat it all. And we were used to free feeding our dogs. And Beebe wasn't getting any food. We found out that Esther was starved half the time. When we talked to the people where we got her, and we found out the conditions where they had rescued her from. And I think they were afraid to tell us at first.
But you're right. Those stories are so applicable to writing because, there's a backstory and there's reasons people behave a certain way, and the dogs are examples of that.
Sometimes people react and you think, well, they're just a jerk. Wait a minute. Maybe there's a reason for the why they're doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Wow.
And everybody wants to jump to the conclusion that they're a racist, that they're a jerk, that they're all Democrats are this and all Republicans are that, or all Christians are this. And there's no such thing as all of anybody.
No. And that's why we need compassion and empathy and understanding. And like you're saying, take a moment to understand what's going on and why.
And maybe they are a jerk. Then you delve into the reasons they are a jerk. Delve into, people ought to say, oh, we don't want to hear any more of those. They had a bad childhood story. Well, maybe, if you hear this bad childhood story, you'll change your mind on that. I mean, there's a lot out there.
Wow, what unique perspectives. Usually on Writer Talks, we talk about, I write from 9 to noon and I must have my coffee, and that's awesome. But this is such a unique angle that you're providing, Leslie. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad.
Yeah. So what are you working on right now?
I am been working on a novel. I still work some short stories in there, but I signed up for the Canadian write a novel in a weekend kind of contest that they have in 2019. Well, I got a sort of novel finished, did not win the contest, and I'm glad I didn't, because as I started writing this, I got so into it and wanted to do more and more. And I didn't want them to publish what I had done. And ironically, what I had been writing about was about in part, not entirely, but in part about the 1918 pandemic.
What?
I swear, it's not my fault this happened. It's not my fault.
Wow.
The story starts in Ireland, and in the times right before the heavy duty Irish War, the Irish War of Independence, but there was a lot going on. Things like, about Easter, the big bad Easter Sunday there and all that. And it involves a woman, the priest, and the daughter, and the woman the man she marries. And it is a historical fiction with a lot of history in it, a lot of history that will surprise you. And the more I delved in it, the more I wanted to. So it just keeps getting longer, but it's not that long yet. It's just that I keep wanting to write it well.
Right.
it takes place first in Ireland and then in maritime Canada.
Oh, wow. Fascinating.
I
Okay.
am fascinated with Canada anyway, because I love Prince Edward Island. I have some
Uh-huh.
dear friends there. Hello, Faye, Dale, Molly, Blake,
Wow.
Kayla, Naomi, Kyle.
Oh,
They're so good to us.
wow.
Just the best people ever.
Mm.
And I started learning more about a lot of things that just blew my mind. And then I found out about this man who really did so much to save people from the pandemic then.
Wow.
And it kind of like their Dr. Fauci.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Fascinating.
And anyway, the story is a historical fiction ghost story romance.
I love it. So is it in progress right now?
It is in progress. I keep getting close to the end and I keep adding something. And then I'm going to have, as soon as I finally get to the end, and I'm going to have 2 people that I trust to read it and tell me just how does it seem to you.
Uh-huh.
And then I also have someone I'm hiring to just go over it to edit it, because she's somebody I know real well that I know will catch any point of view slips and things like that. And then I'm going to seek publication. I hope to get it published in Canada.
Oh,
because
fun.
I think it would go over better there than it would here. I just think it's more made for there.
And certainly timely. I mean, people have been trying to learn about the 1918 pandemic, and the good news is the Roaring 20s came right after that. So hopefully we're going to have some Roaring 2020s when this is all over, right?
We can hope, but I think people will probably want to celebrate a lot. I know down here in Mobile, and if anybody wanted to know, I'm from Mobile, Alabama. Though not originally, I grew up in Iowa, but in Mobile, Alabama, we didn't get to have Mardi Gras this year.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was closed up, and that hurts for people down here. People like to do their balls and their parades and everything. And if by next year we're able to have it, you can bet there's going to be some partying at Mardi Gras. I mean, Mardi Gras is not a day. Mardi Gras is not a day here. It is a season. It lasts like 6 weeks, and it is going to be big, bad, and fun.
Woo! I love it.
It will be. The most important part of Mardi Gras is Joe Cane Day. It's the Sunday before Mardi Gras. Joe Cane was a man who, during the time of Yankee aggression, I just say that it's during the Reconstruction period when the Yankees were down here. They took Mardi Gras away from him again, and that Joe Cane, after a few years, Mr. Cane got tired of it, and he said, "I want Mardi Gras back." So he dressed up like an Indian, just because he needed a costume, and got in his wagon and made it look all good, and went downtown Mobile and just went wee wee and crazy, and just drove around in circles downtown. And the soldiers looked at him like, well, he's just lost his mind. But see, the people of Mobile knew that's not what was going on. They knew he was celebrating Mardi Gras.
Oh. So
the next year, a few more joined him, and the next year, a few more after that, and finally Reconstruction was done, and everybody was celebrating, but they were honoring Joe Cane too, because you did it right in their faces. You did it in front of the Yankees.
Oh.
So
why
if
did
you've
he
ever
dress
heard
like
of
an Indian?
Just because it was a costume that he could put on. You were supposed to wear costumes and things during Mardi Gras.
Oh, it's a celebration.
If you've ever heard of the term raising Cane.
Oh, right.
It's from
That's where it came from?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's fascinating.
And there's a lot of things that happen on the Sunday before Mardi Gras that is just fun.
Oh, so it's a big celebration day. I will. Thank you for that history lesson. Wow, that's fascinating.
Every area has got its own little things. And that's another thing writers should look at. I mean, you live in a place and you're bored with maybe all the little nuances of it, but other people aren't. Other people might want to know more about it.
Yes, absolutely. Regional history is fascinating. So, Leslie, this is amazing. You are so inspiring. I just love reading your writing. I can't wait to read your novel. That's going to be awesome. And I just wish you the absolute best. Is there any advice you'd like to share with writers out there right now?
You're going to be, people like to say rejected. I say declined. They just declined to publish your work this time. But I've had some of the things that I thought were my best work, somebody say no, and then down the road somebody else wants it. I'll have somebody pick things that I thought I was not even sure if I wanted to send it into somebody, and we love this. It's like you don't know what one publication is going to like sometimes, and another publication isn't. You don't necessarily want to go for, for places like the Atlantic when you're first starting. I don't even send to them. But join a writers group when you're first starting, if you can find one. There's a lot of them are online, and don't take no. Just keep trying to get better.
Oh, yes, for sure.
And have fun with it more than anything. Have fun with it.
I love that. That's excellent. You are truly an inspiration, Leslie. So thank you very much. I'm super excited for people to order the anthologies so they can read your 3 stories and celebrate your talent.
There's going to be 5.
Right. The 3 anthologies with 5 stories. Thank you.
I always,
my
I'm
sister,
sorry to correct you, but I've just got to get this straight because
no, I know my sister always jokes that I say I'm a writer, not a mathematician. So sometimes I get numbers skewed. So
I love your sister. She is darling.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. And Leslie, she created our contest because she wanted writers to be celebrated and showcased. And there is so much rejection. So that was mine. Yeah. So Leslie, thank you so much for joining me here on Writer Talks as the winner of multiple short story contests for Two Sisters Writing. For Two Sisters Writing and Publishing. We appreciate you, and you are doing positive and powerful things for the world. So I wish you the best and keep in touch. You'll have to come back when you finish your novel, okay?
I would love to.
All right,
well,
Leslie.
let's wait till I get it published. That would be
right,
good.
Exactly. So people can buy it.
Yeah, there we go. I like that.
All right, Leslie. Thank you and be well. Happy writing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.